Welcome to another episode of the Tuna Gear podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Danny.
And today we've got Alex McDonald from Sakuma. I only practiced that 5 times and I still got it wrong. Welcome, mate. Thank you for coming down.
Pleasure to be here.
We can thank Ben, UK Fish Layer, for this one.
Yes,
he reached out to me and said, can we get Alex on? Yeah, 100%. Let's have the chat. We spoke on the phone a little bit. We come from the same sort of background with the carp.
Yep.
And
okay.
Sorry. We came from that side of it. I hadn't used a lot, obviously, with the Sakuma side of it. I've used some bits and pieces of your terminal tackle, but I have used a huge amount of the red gills.
Yeah. That's
how I first started sea fishing down on the cities. We'd be down on the Eastern Isles, little Drascombe Dabber 14, crab lines with a red gill tied on the end, just trawling them along, catching pollock and stuff, coming up and out of the kelp. So that's where I first... I don't know, it's something that always, like red gills, just stick in my head from the very, very early days of fishing. Yeah. We used to have these bright red ones and the black ones. Like the old man, don't even know where he got them from, but that was it. He used to launch them off the rocks. So I was looking forward to having this chat. There's a bit of nostalgia in there for me. I'm looking forward to talking about some carp fishing. Welcome. Thank you for coming down, mate. I've seen you've been doing some fishing with Ben.
Yeah, we went out yesterday as it happened, actually. Yeah, we went out on Chesil, did a first YouTube video for the Sakuma channel, actually, so we thought we'd go down. It's more just a case of meeting up with Ben, because we never met, actually. You know, we just spoke to him. He's a lovely guy.
He's a top guy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a funny little story there. But anyway.
There always is with Ben.
Yeah. Sort of the first one I started, I was aware of him. He was fishing down the estuary in Kingsbridge for the giltheads, and I was like, oh no, not another YouTuber giving it all away and everything. But to be fair to him, he wasn't like naming places, and these days that's just the way things are. But it was a bit sort of like, and then I saw a bit more of him about, and just he seemed like a really nice chap, which he is, and this is the right person that we wanted to have involved in the brand, and we thought we'd do a little bit more stuff, and hence what you just said, how we got in touch really, and we went and had a fish yesterday. It was quite a tough day, but we've pulled out a few flatties, a few plaice, which is what we were after. And
a tough day fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
It work, you know. It's hard to take that tough
go
day.
Fishing for the day. Yeah, it's one of the perks, I suppose, of the trade. And it was a real pleasure. It was a nice day, and enjoyed it thoroughly.
So where did you start fishing then?
I started when I was a kid, actually. I think my grandmother brought me a little walrus rod back in the day up in Scotland.
Do you know many grandmothers have got kids into fishing? Yeah. I hear this so many times.
My parents didn't fish or anything, but I was just I'd always had a slight fixation with water. I don't know why, whether it was the sea or streams or lakes. I was always slightly drawn towards it. And
you are as anglers. I've got the exact same thing.
I think
it's calming.
It is, yeah. There's something about it. I don't know, but we were on holiday up in Scotland, a place called Cookubry, and it was right on the coast. There was this big bay that come in, big sandy bay, and there was a little tackle shop in the village. Funny enough, we actually dealt with that tackle shop. They've closed now, which is a shame. But anyway, that same tackle shop that we started dealing with 30 or 40 years later or whatever, I brought a reel. My grandmother brought me a reel in there, and I had this like walrus little rod or whatever. And anyway, that's the start of it all, really. And then it was around, I suppose, sort of like early 80s or something like that, when somehow carp fishing sort of was taking off around that time. I was doing a little bit of coarse fishing on the lakes. Really didn't know what I was doing. I think the first coarse fish caught was a gudgeon, like float fishing maggots or stuff like that. So we were just mucking around doing that with a few friends, and then sort of heard about carp fishing, and it sort of like that grabbed me attention as well. I think it was all you went into a tackle shop back then, it was the smell of the flavours, wasn't it? And the baits and that. It was something about it all, and I think that was back in the days when Rod Hutchinson had Catching products, and there was a few other. Richworth had just started making their baits, but it was all in its infancy or very early stages. It wasn't like it is now. And anyway, I got into it through the carp fishing really, and then sort of did that all the way through.
Was that Southwest or?
No, I was up in Reading at the time, where in Hampshire, a place called Fleet. That was where I lived at the time.
So right in the hotbed of you're up on the Cong Valley. You're in the mecca of it up there.
Yateley
really.
as well. We're only just down the road from Yateley.
Yeah.
Fished a few of the Match Lake and places like that. And then I remember
Basil,
my parents.
Mary, Yeah,
It was.
I really like
Yeah,
Point Fish out
Staines,
there.
wasn't it? Foxpool,
Yeah.
those sort of waters. I didn't fish that one, but I fished a few of the sort of
Not far from
what they call the
Burfield.
history waters now. Yeah,
legit waters.
yeah.
The waters that first started, like when that was starting to blow up, there would be like the odd 40 coming out a year, and then all of a sudden you've got a 40 over here, a 40 over there, a 40 over there, and they're popping up in all the different lakes.
But back then you had Basil, which Richard McDonald famously caught a few others around the time. You had the Foxpool, big one, didn't you? Which was a 40, but there's probably a handful, if that, of 40s. But anyway, those days a 20 was a big fish. But then my dad was in the army, was a civil servant in the army at Sandhurst, and then he moved down to Dartmouth, the Navy. So he was a civil servant. That's when we moved down to Kingsbridge. It was about 12, something like that. And I remember being absolutely gutted when we come down because it's not really a hotbed for fishing, is it, in the south? The carp fishing.
Where did you go? Coombe Fisheries, the only one.
Coombe was the one we were fishing at. Because it was
I did a lot of time on there as a kid. You had Newbarn, Town Parks, Hatchlands, which is out towards South Brent. Oh, there's another one up by the side of South Brent. Can't remember what it's called now. And Coombe. That was it. And of course, I didn't drive, so it was where
it's where your parents would take you to, wasn't it?
We were in Newbarn all the time because we were in Stoke Gabriel. Newbarn's on the Totnes Road, and then every so often, my mum would take us down to Kingsbridge for the day, and I'll get dropped at Coombe.
Yeah, that's it. And those little lakes, I loved it. There's another one towards Plymouth by what used to be the Shire Horse Centre. I can't remember the name. I think it's called like Sunridge Nurseries. There's the place, and there was a little triangular lake down there. Quite snaggy, but that was good fun. We used to catch them on like crust under the bushes and stuff. And yeah, it was almost a bit of a throwback from being up in the sort of Hampshire area where everything was getting more modern, hair rigs and boilies. When you come back down here in the farm ponds, you could still catch them on like luncheon meat. Didn't have hair rigs and stuff, floating crust and
hiding the hook inside the luncheon meat, putting it all the way through, turning it around.
A little bit of reed as a hairstyle.
Grass,
And then we found out about Rackerhays, which was basically the mecca down here at the time. That was almost like the Kent Darenth or the Yateley, it was...
Island Pond had an amazing reputation until that oxygen crash. There was people travelling a long way to go and fish that.
Did you ever get banned from there?
I didn't, no.
Oh, just you with an Andy.
I managed to avoid that. I probably could have been a few times using... I think I was using... Anyway, at one point I was using tiger nuts when I was
using tiger nuts, I was using micro barbs. That's not what I got banned for,
but I maybe could have done. But no,
Racks is a special bit of water.
Again, and in the 80s it was very much a hotbed down here. You had some really good anglers that were fishing it, so it's anglers that are still around now, like Dave Billett, there was a few others, and Rob Fletcher. Really good quality anglers. Jonathan Perkins, his dad John Perkins, again, he used to fish with Peter Springett up there. He'd moved down here and he was fishing on it. So there was really good anglers. And I always say with fishing, when you're fishing around really good anglers, you learn so much, don't you? You just have to talk to them and see them and see how they fish, and you just pick up things. And back then was very much how you did it, because it's very limited. Obviously, there's no social media. There's a few specialist magazines like Carp Fisher, but not many. So that is really good to fish lakes with that quality of angler, because, again, even now, I think, when you fish with very good anglers, you can't help but pick up like tips and stuff from them, and it improves your own fishing. I think that's one beautiful thing with fishing is, you're always learning. You never think, sometimes you think, you have a really good run of fish. You must know it, Danny, when you're on it with the bass or whatever, or the bream. You think, I've got this little bit of you thinks, I've got this suss now.
Then it humbles you the next trip.
It just turns on it. It's just.
But I found down there was you obviously in the shop you get people go down there all the time and talk about, like you say, you get these cycles. But I think it's because it's a mature complex. You can still fish. It's not a runs water. You just rock up and it's all featureless. It is a mature looking venue.
Max in Tackle Trader says that Rackerhays isn't a commercial fishery. No, it's deep.
It's got features, isn't it? Bars, snags,
some of those ponds are 20+ foot.
But
they're all clay pits.
What makes it so sad is, like I say, is obviously I don't know what the official line is now, but I think Selco gave them 5 years and they're going to fill them all in. I think the rugby club is the only place that's safe. I think they want it all back.
I did hear that rumour.
I think they've got 5 years because Exeter District own fisheries in the same sort of area, like Aberwick, but Aberwick was safe. But the actual Rackers complex, I believe, other than the rugby club, I think the lot's been built.
It's possible. I think there is issues, which is possibly could save it, and I think there's quite a few
so.
bats and newts and sort of wild. So something when I know what's going on with Labour, and they're trying to stop all this stuff now, making a difference if they want to. But I think when things like, it'd be such a shame to lose it because it's got so much wildlife and such a beautiful place, and it's sort of in where everyone's getting built up now. I think to lose a place like that,
popping around the back of Tesco's. You shut that gate behind you and the world just disappears.
It does, yeah.
And the further you head down towards like Dawes in Weedy, Pond down there, the further you're getting behind it. And like once it gets into the evening, all you hear is those lorries from the other side going. I think they're going through the wheel wash where the donk as it goes through. I love that place.
They say they would find another area to build another complex, but then.
It's not going to be the same now. How long is it going to take?
20 years to even get remotely like that. Even if they place in plants and beds and stuff, still 20 years. It'll
be such a shame. It'll be such a shame.
And I
guess that doesn't happen.
No, I hope not as well because we get lots of
Newton and Max and all that. They do a really good job of keeping it. I mean, the one thing I joined it for a couple of years.
Down there constantly. Max does an amazing job.
They're always doing stuff, and it's so pristine. And they tied it all up. The only thing with it now, which is basically carp fishing in general, is that I think £100 as well for a season ticket to fish those lakes or whatever it is now, maybe a little bit more. It's so cheap, isn't it, and accessible. But with that comes volumes of people, doesn't it? And it is quite busy now.
They've now allowed it to anyone. You don't have to be postcode now, is it? Anyone can join Newton now.
Yeah.
Chris Way sent me a message last weekend of him up in the corner of Island with adjustable zigs out, and he was like, I decided to do this for the night. I was like, I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's Rax. You in Rax? Yeah. Forgot how busy it was. And you zoomed in, and I zoomed in on the picture, and you could just see him in the car park.
And again, it's just the way fishing is now, and it's easy access for a lot of people, and it's relatively cheap, and it gets people into the sport. So I think it's brilliant on a lot of levels, but I think on a personal level, especially as I get older, I prefer the peace and quiet to be away from people.
Fishing. That's why I've gone boat fishing. Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, so I still do a little bit of carp fishing. I'm on a syndicate now, which is quite quiet and which suits me a little bit. I don't fish as much, but a very good friend of mine, it's a good opportunity to go with him because he still does a bit of carping. So we can sometimes go Lower Tamar. That's a lovely lake.
Yeah, I fish Lower Tamar.
Good fish in it. And again, when you get up there,
it's feel a Southwest Lakes ticket, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But I like that. I don't like to be crammed in and people casting over the top of you, or being able to hear other people's conversations, or at night seeing people watching telly in their bivvy, and things like that. I just want to.
The purist in you is
especially as I get older as well. I just find it's your own.
People are a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And also it's like when you're younger, you're driven by the fish, which is great, and I still am to a degree. But I also now enjoy the peace and quiet and the nature and just the surroundings as well. So I like to be away. It's nice to be in that environment without all the sort of noise and stuff that goes around with busy sort of venues.
No, I get that.
I'm even like it with my sea fishing. I'd rather walk for half an hour to find a mark that's nice and quiet where there's not anyone there or around you. That suits me more. So my fishing quite often now is planned a little bit around sort of where it's going to be peaceful as well, rather than, so I avoid busy areas, even though they're quite good marks or good spots. I tend to avoid them, especially on weekends and that, just because I don't really want to be, and I think it can be detrimental to fishing, as you know, with your bass.
We know too much pressure, and that's it. We have a lot of marks. I won't say anything, but we have a lot of marks that they are the same marks, and there are some marks now that if you want to not be shoulder to shoulder with some people, or and it's not a negative thing to them, but they'll come, they want to talk to you, and they may be loud or they're in the water. But now, I know where to avoid and where to slope into because I know that that's not going to be as busy.
Yeah, you're playing your fishing, and you'll have backup spots if somewhere's things like that. Again, I'm not looking socialised side of it.
Absolutely not. No.
If people want to fish together in big groups, that's great. Yeah. Just not for me.
Yeah, it hurts the fishing. My mate used to message me all the time and say, "Oh, should we go fishing? We'll have a social." I don't want to have a social. No. I want to go fishing. I don't want to be bivvied up next to you in a swim just because it's convenient.
Yeah.
I don't mind. We'll go fishing together. That's saying we'll go and do our own thing. And at some point, when the fishing's cooled off a bit, there's always bite time on a lake somewhere. At some point in the day, it's just pointless. Let's bring the rods in, we'll go sit down, we'll get a barbecue going, and then we'll go our separate ways again. I don't want to be in a double swim with you, going, you have left, I'll have right. That's
not for you. No.
I got offered a syndicate ticket by a guy that's, he's been on the podcast, and it's close to home, And he almost had me. I was like, ooh, it's quite, it used to be a trout fishery. They've just they restocked it a couple of years ago. It's got some nice fish in it. Sent me a message. Do you fancy it? I was like, meh, I'm on the fence a little bit. Then he sent me the rules. Done. Done.
It is a bit.
Booking, no more than X amount of anglers, no more than doing this, can't do this, can't do that. No thanks, mate.
It's a bit much, isn't it? Really?
It is a bit much. It's just not. And I understand it's somebody's land. You're just a guest on it. There's rules for a reason because everyone takes the piss. I get it, and I just can't do it anymore.
No, that's. I think carp fishing is.
That's why I liked Europe. That's why I went off into Belgium and the Netherlands and stuff like that. Because
there's a lot of canals, isn't there, and stuff where there's a sort of.
And there's no one about.
Yeah.
You can. There's certain sections of canal that will get fished a lot because the locals know. So some towpaths you can park on, some you can't, and it's a big fine. You've got the I can't remember what the Belgian ones are called that go around patrolling it. You're talking €150, and it's not. Oh, here's a bit of paper. It's where's my money? You are paying that €150, or they're gonna you'll not go. Your gear's not going anywhere until you've gone to get that €150.
Especially when you lose the keys and it's part you can't move the fucking thing anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I have lost keys. I've literally lost keys.
Yeah, that's happened.
And they're in the door anyway.
Yeah. They're not messing about.
No.
So some of those sections are just not getting fished because you go over, you'll park in a car park, and you're going to be on a bike with all your kit for 2-3 miles to go and get to where you want to fish, and the locals just don't want to do it. They'll fish where they can. There's a big thing in Europe. They fish out their vans, don't they?
Yeah.
You see it all over the place.
Thing, isn't it?
Yeah. They all fish out the side of their vans, and I get it. It's a great way to fish. I think Bake Lakes down in Cornwall now let you do.
Culvert,
Yeah. You can take your van down to the side of the lake and fish out your van.
I think there's ones now, you drive to it, then the owner will bring you your meal in the evening, and there's other ones in there where you can only use the house bait, which is like you can't even bring your own bait. They give you, again, it's horses for courses, isn't it? If that's what floats your boat and that's what
I
you
want to
like.
be off in the middle of nowhere, not seeing anybody.
But it's getting, I think carp fishing now, it's getting those sort of places where you can, there's not so many rules and you can do your own thing. And I still like lakes as well, to look a bit like lakes. I like to see all the reeds and the pads and overhanging trees and snags and, all these concreted swims.
Manicured banks.
Manicured, everything's there. It's like even a little hut on some of them, isn't it? You can sleep in, you don't even need to take your bivvy and you've got your, again, it's each to their own, but that sort of thing isn't really for me, and that's why I think carp fishing, it doesn't appeal to me as much as it did when I was a kid, because you had places like Rackage, which are still relatively underfished. It was all a bit, there's more mystery, there's more intrigue to it. Exeter Canal is another one, people didn't really know, they're getting harder to find, I think, now, just the world we live in, isn't it? Social media and everything. There's not
everything's got a name.
And people who try to obviously want to make money out.
Little Oscar, who's a friend of ours, Sean, Little Oscar from the shop.
He works in the shop.
So he was a Rackers boy through and through, but he's actually putting a season on the canal, and he's done a few sessions. He's only catching tench at the minute, but he's loving it because it's very different to anything he's ever done before, and it's the unknown. Exactly. And it's a relatively, the anglers that fish it well, they're not closed, but they don't give anything away.
A little bit of secrecy.
So he's in there and he's having to, whereas like for years on racks, he pretty much knows what he's going to do, where he's going on that canal. The same as I'm going to do it, but on the tidal this year, first time ever. But it's the same deal. It's that unknown of, and he's. I've spoken to him literally on the way down here today. He was buzzing. He only had attention a night, but he's loving it because it's that unknown.
Me boat.
Yeah, he did say it. He did actually say it.
Could do with one on the canal. It is an asset, definitely.
I've got one of the Raptors with the electric outboards. I bought it for going into France to fish the barrages, but then COVID come along and it's been used once on the River Dart to take the kids out and a couple of times in the sea, and that's it. It's been sat in a container. So I think drunkenly in the pub at the show, I said to Oscar, you want to borrow me boat? And then he rung me the other day. I was like, shit, yeah.
He wants to just offload at Swan's Nest and just tank up there without him to barrow everywhere.
I don't blame him. I would be.
I'd give it to him, but no motor on it, so you got a row. He would soon change his mind then.
I had a good friend of mine from years ago, a guy called Ben Gratwick, lovely guy. He had
Diggers. I know Ben very well. I took
angler.
Diggers apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely took that place apart. But I came to Diggers from fishing racks. I'd fish racks before I got banned. And I'd pretty much, I wouldn't say I completed it, but I'd caught a lot there. And I thought, I want to give something else a go where there's like a bigger head of fish to go for. So I thought, I'm going to go to Diggers. And I turned up and I was super mobile there, whereas a lot of the lads were turning up and they wanted to be in Big J, or they wanted to be in number 1, or they wanted to be out in Brick Point, or they were down over here or down over there. And I was just lapping. And I got into them really quickly and started knocking them off pretty fast and got into, not Baby M. That one had sort of disappeared. A 3 scale I think I had was the first 30 out of there. Then I had the Chinese Common. Yeah, I like Ben. He's a really good bloke. I spent a lot of time with him.
But
Hell of an angler.
Yeah. He fished Raisbury, done well.
Him and Simon Scott did a lot of fishing together.
That's a scientist guy, isn't it?
Yeah, well, fish farmer.
Fish farmer, sorry, yeah.
When I lived in Exeter for a few years and I fished the canal a little bit, not with Ben, but with one of his friends. I had a few fish out of there and nothing big, but those fish meant more to me because I had to work from them. But going off on a tangent too much, Ben, he had a boat because he was fishing Raisbury at the time and he was using a boat up there. So he used to come down and use it. I used to go out with him to bait spots sometimes and have a look at it, and just what you learn from watching the spots and seeing the bait in it, you used to see where the fish had turned them over, and you can notice it because all the little shells from all the little water snails all look like pearlescent on the bottom, and you can see how they're crated out the bottom and the little shells have been pushed to the side. So I used to bait it with hemp and tigers and stuff, and then you go back and fish the spots. And but Ben did really well, and it was all he was boating it and using it, and he was using basically what he'd learnt on Raisbury, but he was using it on the canal. And obviously
drawing at the new scope boat, weren't we? The big one, there's new ones because they are just so not the 2 sizes.
The first time I really had a conversation with Ben, I'd seen him around. I knew it was his lake, and there's a little island on Diggers which had the boat on it. And no one was allowed to use the boat. And I was like, "Can I use the boat, Ben?" No one's allowed to use the boat. And he was like, "You can't get to it anywhere." And I was like, "What do you mean you can't get to it? How'd you put it there in the first place?" He's like, "There's a way to get to it, but no one can work it out." I must have got 20 waderfuls trying to work out how to get onto this little island. And I finally worked it out. You could sneak under a willow tree and there was a little bar and you had to pull your waders up and just go as fast as you could. So I've managed to get the boat, and Ben had been down that morning and I knew where it was. I thought, right, he's gone. He ain't going to be back till tonight. Out I go, get the boat out, and I'm just floating around. And I've got, I was using what was I using? I had my landing net handle. And I had what were the first baiting poles? Not before the Nash Bushwhackers came out. Somebody made a baiting pole. Anyway, I had one of those. So I had that in my landing net handle, and I'm just going around, tamping around, and all I've heard is, "What the fuck are you doing?" Hi, Ben. Don't let anybody catch you in that boat. I was like, yeah, same. I was in that boat all the time.
Top lad, Ben. It's a good laugh with him, both fishing and socialised inside of it. Yeah, we used to it was a really good lad, really good angler though. Another one of those ones that you can learn from. He's brilliant fishing in the edge. I remember him on Rackery's taking it apart, fishing pellets right under the tips when no one was really doing that.
What's Ollie Davies call it? Afro-rap.
Afro-rap, Afro-rap, yeah.
Just, some of you meet anglers over the years, don't you, that some of them, they've got that little bit extra, just very good anglers, and you can't help but learn from them. And I'd definitely put him in that category as well.
Where did he go? There's a lake slightly up from Diggers.
Oh, it's those...
There's a winter ticket there, and then...
Ashmead.
He went off to Ashmead, didn't he? And he did.
He did on that.
Yeah, he did.
He had a few fish out of that. He's caught pretty much everywhere he's went, and...
Even he said that was hard fishing. I was like, bloody hell, if Ben says it's hard, it's hard, like that's...
But no, you haven't seen him for years, but I've heard from friends that he's doing well. So
he's just been fly fishing over in... I spoke to him recently. I want to say like Mozambique or something like that. I might be wrong. But he's just come back from somewhere like that. He's doing a lot of that now.
I think as you get older, sometimes you look for different angles, don't you? Because he's done pretty much everything in carp. Not everything, but he's,
enough to tick off carp fishing, completed that.
I was a bit like that because, to be honest with you, I'd had enough of carp fishing. It sort of coincided quite well, actually, with me working in the tackle trade, because before that I was just carp fishing and doing different jobs and things like that. But when I started in the trades, I was still doing a bit of carp fishing, but then I started to sort of the sea fishing because we sold quite a lot of sea fishing tackle, and started to get a little bit of a twitch to do a bit of sea fishing. And my brother was a little bit similar. He was living down here at the time, so we thought, got access to all the gear here and everything, we'll give it a little go. And really that was it. And then for 20 odd years after that, I didn't really do any carp fishing at all. It's only been, say, 20 years, maybe a bit less than that. I never sold my gear. I'm not one for selling gear because I think you always regret it, don't you? Really. So I always ate my gear, even though it was a bit sort of a bit old and everything. I've upgraded it all now because I'm doing a little bit
Vintage.
more vintage stuff. Yeah, Mitchell 300s, Northwestern, like 1 3/4 carbon Kevlars. That was the gear. But obviously, I've had to upgrade it a bit more now. So, but yeah, anyway, yeah. So that I got fed up a bit with carp fishing. I thought I fished rack-rays for a lot. I caught quite a few of the fish. Island Pond obviously had that fish kill that you mentioned before. So I went over onto Dawes Pond. I fished that a lot. I loved fishing on Dawes, actually. It took me a while to get over there because I was more interested in islands that had all the big fish in it. And it was actually before the fish kill, but my mate was fishing over on Dawes and he said, you really need to get over here because it's got some lovely scaly fish which moved from Bradley when they were small and they'd grown into nice sized fish. And I loved Dawes. It was a bit more wild, a bit more windswept, a bit more features.
Especially up that top end, up towards like Goose Steps and the helipad and up around that end. It is just real snaggy. It's like a mangrove swamp up there, isn't it? The fish can get right in where you can't fish for them. It's
just interesting. And at the time I was living in King Staten, so I could just nip down and bait up. So I was like baiting up and then fishing, and it was just brilliant. I enjoyed my fishing, but after that I did a little bit on Exeter Canal, like I mentioned. But yeah, once I started sea fishing, that was it. It was just like, wow, it just opened up. And the thing I loved about the sea fishing was it's like you go through the seasons as well. It's so, in the winter you'd be floundering or cod fishing, and you come into the spring and you'd be place fishing, and then the smooth hound and the bream. So like literally like every couple of months you were sort of changing tack, and some points, some week, you'd be fishing for multiple. In the winter, like I say, you might be doing a bit of flounder fishing, and you might go up the channel cod fishing, a little bit of wrasse fishing or something, and I learned so much. I improved as an angler massively from starting sea fishing, just because it's sort of just the different types of techniques. In carp fishing, I get it. You've got a lot of different techniques you could use, but you are just fishing for one species, obviously in different venues and stuff. And sea fishing, you've got so much. You've got like tides, weather conditions, marks. And again, back then that was before social media. And you couldn't just get everything. Tackle shops, people would talk in the corner under hushed tones. You wouldn't tell you about marks. You'd learn about it, or you'd get, I had a little bit of a head start, obviously being in the trade, because you're talking to a lot of shops and people like that. But even back then, though, people would mention stuff to you, but only if they thought you deserve. You know what I mean?
It was in a circle,
a little bit, or So it was all. It was so interesting, getting your maps out and your Admiralty charts and looking at everything and just trying to work it all out, and absolutely loved it, and I still love it now. And even though I'm doing a little bit more carping again, but that's as I'm getting older. As I said, for the friend, it's nice, the social side, isn't it? You can go for a night's carp fishing and you can have a little bit of a chill, and you can still to catch the fish, and that's the main thing, but it's a little bit more sociable than sea fishing. Sea fishing, as you know as well, or both of you, that a lot of it's around short periods of tides, isn't it? So you're very rarely out for, you could go for an 8-hour session, but, there's going to be periods. I mean,
I'm on the boat. I'm never on the shore. I'm always on the boat.
On the boat. But even then, it's, there's times, isn't it, the best states of the tide to fish, and then a lot of the other time, you might get the odd fish, but it's sort of, sea fishing is, I don't think it's, for me anyway, you work hard at it for short little periods, and that's it. So
you can get a fix in 2 hours as well, instead of having to be bivvied up for 48.
Yeah, definitely. So it gives you that flexibility of where you can fish and what you can target and the marks you can go. You've got like lots of options, and it's not like carp fishing, is it? Where you think I'm going to that lake, and it's sort of you look where the wind goes and you think, oh, that might be. I mean, yeah. But anyway, I mean, I'm not again. I learned a lot of the carp fishing. That's what sort of got me into it, really. But I think sea fishing, it made me a lot better.
Well, when you got into the sea fishing, what was that first fish species, or the first thing you kind of really nailed into that you thought, fuck yeah, I've cracked it? Was there anything that stood out for you that was like, oh, this is better me?
I think I ever really well. I worked bloody hard for. I've got I was quite happy with most of the sort of fish that I've caught and everything. But the ones that really got me interested is rays. For some reason, I just really had this thing with rays. Even before I sea fished, I used to look through the books when I was a kid, and that in the sea fishing section, you see people with the rays, and I just thought they're cool.
Just so different.
Just something about them, they just look brilliant, and that's what really sort of made me. That was the first species I wanted to target when I started sea fishing, and when we knew a little bit enough about rigs and stuff. We sort of did, and most of that was down Salcombe, Kingsbridge, thornback fishing with my brother, and that. I got really fond memories of fishing down there, crab and that, and prawn and that, fishing for thornbacks and catching them, and then we ventured out onto the coast and we started to get fishing for things like small eyes and then bullass, and you sort of like it was a gradual sort of thing. But I remember catching my first double figure hass and been over the moon, like getting back and hardly been able to sleep. My first spotted ray, like £5 spotted ray, and I was sort of like, again, got to bed at night and you could hardly sleep, you're that excited and chomping at the bit. And that was the thing, from the cartfish, it reminded me when I was a kid, cartfish, that buzz that you got, which I'd lost when I started sea fishing, that come back again, and I was so, everything, you get Sea Angler every month, you'd read it cover to cover, and all you'd be thinking about all the time is like, where your next session and where you could go. And but yeah, Ray's was the one that really did it. And
we spoke to a guy last year near Sawmill Way, and he'd been trying and came up. Obviously, he was walking up as I was walking down, like over there.
Yeah.
So, oh, boys, what are you going for? And I was like, oh, just going to go for a bit of wrasse fishing. He said, oh, yeah, I've had the best session of my life. I finally caught my ray. And he was like smiling from ear to ear. And he's like, you could really tell he was blowing out his ass climbing back up those cliffs. But he'd done what he went to do, his first ever one. And he was absolutely lovely. He was shaking. He was like, oh, he got his picture out. And whether I liked it or not, I was seeing the picture of these rays. He was like, I've had the best session of my life. And just all of a sudden, after so many blanks, it came together. And he was shaking with excitement about it. I was like, you know what, mate? Fucking yeah, get on,
amazing
mate.
Get on.
That is, and that's really what fishing should be about, isn't it?
Buzzing,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I can remember my first blonde ray off the shore, my first spool lights, all that. The same feeling. It's just so, you look, back then you didn't have digital, your cameras, you had to wait to get the camera, the film developed before you could get it, and you'd be like waiting. And
Kodak disposables.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a real, I still do now. I mean, even though I don't do as much of the other, I do more, like, the bream really, and through the summer sort of months and that, the winter months I do a little bit. I don't do as much as what I used to. I wish, I kind of want to again, but I don't know if I've got that passion to be climbing up and down the cliffs, like you say, in the middle of the night, sort of, it takes a certain mindset, a dedication, I would say. I still know guys.
I think once you get out there and do one trip up and down, you're like, right, it's back, let's go.
I remember watching once, I was across the bay, the kind of the creek bay from them, watching Brycey and Rob York climbing down stuff, thinking,
there's a couple of marks there.
What the fucking hell are you doing? Yeah. Full climbing gear, the lot, carabiner into, and I'm thinking, like, is it really, really worth all that? But they love it. They love that. That is all. And I know Yorkie quite well, and I was speaking to him when he used to live in Plymouth. Nice guy, and obviously with what happened and whatnot. And I used to speak to him all the time, and he was just such a nice guy.
Yes, yeah.
But I see them on there, and they were military precision with what they did on Angler. They took that shore fishing to levels that I'd sit there and I've got a little rucksack and a little Rasper rod and my glasses, and me and Jim O'Donnell would be rock hopping and look across seeing it and thinking, what are they doing? Belaying across crevices, and I'm like, wow.
Absolutely crazy. Well, even before I think there was Andy Coppin, he was one of the guys that fished that mark a little bit before they did, and they used quite basic kind of gear to get on there, and I remember going up to it a couple.
No joke. Yeah.
We fished the marks a bit further, still dodgy-ish, but not. I remember going up to that one and looking over it, and I just like, no chance of my entertaining that, not even with harnesses or anything like that. So I just concentrated on the slightly easier access ones, and but that stretch of coast, I mean, it's a beautiful stretch of coast.
Yeah.
Hard fishing, but the rewards down there, but you have got, that's the sort of effort, and again, it takes that sort of mindset to do that.
Absolutely,
and I'm not quite sure I've kind of quite got that in me anymore. But I loved every minute of doing it, and I'm not saying I won't ever do it again, but it's
absolutely
hardcore, isn't it?
It takes. I'm pretty confident rock up. I've rock upped my whole life, and I love up and down those cliffs. And there's something really rewarding about it. But I would look at what they do.
Physically
sometimes,
demanding as well.
And I just look at them thinking, ain't right. Just not right in the head. There's levels, and it's hard enough with just a lure rod and a little rucksack, let alone the quiver and the bag and the bucket of bait. And I'm like, fucking mental.
Yeah, I've got a very good friend of mine now, Gary Tucker, and he still does it all the time. And I kind of sometimes I really need to get out and do a bit more of that again. And I think, maybe not.
Yeah, crazy, man, crazy, absolutely crazy.
So how did you end up in the trade?
Well, it was a real random one, to be honest with you. As I mentioned before, I was living in King Staton, just up the road from Rax, and I was doing bits of work here and there, nothing much. I think I was doing a bit of agency work at the time. And I think one day I didn't have anything on. I just thought, I'll walk in the Newton Abbot and have a look in the job centre just to see what jobs they might have on there. And I remember going in, and there was this one there, and it's saying, like, warehouse assistant, must be interested in fishing. Bloody hell. What's the chances of that? So, I thought I applied to that and got a job interview. And at the time, it was called Brian Rowe Fishing Tackle. And Brian Rowe was the owner of it. He was a Welsh chap, big bloke, very gruff. I remember going into that interview. It was the first time I walked out of an interview thinking I'd definitely not got that job. Because I didn't know him, obviously I didn't know him, but that was just what he was like. He was, the way his demeanour was very gruff, and and I just thinking I've not got that. And then again, it was around the time you got pagers back then. Mobile phones were only just starting coming out, and I had a little pager. And it didn't even have a message on it. You just had a telephone number, and then you had to go to a payphone and put your money in and then ring the number up. Didn't even know who it was. And then it was Brian Rowe. He said, "Oh, do you want to come in for a trial?" And that was in King Staton as well. It was just up the road from where I lived, which is another little bonus. And give me a trial. And just went from that really. Worked with a guy called Jamie Pearce, who was a coarse match angler, but he did a bit of sea fishing as well. And he sort of helped get me into it a bit. Really nice guy.
So what were you doing for them?
It was just a warehouse, man. It was just a small business. It was just
packing stuff, getting it out.
Yeah, you're just picking and packing orders. That was mainly, back then, it was mostly fly fishing. A lot of it was fly fishing. I'd say about 50% of it. We used to have a couple of fly factories in Kenya that used to tie the flies for us, and we were bringing in the flies, sell those, as well as like Camasan, Breakaway, lots of other branded bits and bobs. Back then, the tackle trade, he used to bring in a couple of containers a year from the Far East. Obviously, the flies were coming from Kenya, and you had little top-ups from UK suppliers. But, really good business. There wasn't the amount of people in it now, the tackle available that there is now. So it was fairly, I'm not saying simple, but he did he built that up in Wales. I think he started doing bait, which is where a lot of people get into it. I think he started doing the frozen bait and fresh bait, and then started to do a bit of tackle. And then he moved down here to the southwest, and he just sort of set up this little business, and he set it all up and, changed the name to Swift Fishing Tackle, which is what it is now. He retired out of the trades. He sold the business to my current boss, Richard and Carol Jenkins. They were actually just down looking for they were in the care home industry, and they were looking for a care home. And it just so happened that the agents they were using for that on the books, there was the business Swift Fishing Tackle. And so they brought that, and then just kept me and Jamie. Jamie was the manager. And I just worked with Jamie, and they brought a couple of family members to come down and work in it. Moved it up to Exeter after about a year, and then they moved it from Exeter up to Weymouth, which is where it is now. Jamie didn't want to move, so he stayed down here. I moved with the business, moved up to Dorwell. I lived just outside Dorchester. It was good for me because the same. I fished Chesil quite a lot. I was still really bang into my sea fishing then, and I was fishing Chesil a bit anyway for certain species. So,
perfect.
Weymouth, where I was working, Chesil right on your doorstep. It was pretty cool. And I was still coming down. I was still doing a lot of, the ray fishing and other sorts of stuff down in the South Hams. And my parents live in Kingsbridge to this day. So I still come down a lot to see them. And I still say a lot of my fishing is down around the South Hams. I love the area. The fishing it's got to offer,
I still got fond memories of me, you, and Jim O'Donnell sat at your parents' house having a beer on the balcony. It was Skippy Fish or something like that.
I remember that. Yeah,
you were just bringing them in, and me and Jim came down to you to talk about what we could do with Skippy Fish, and it was a fucking beautiful evening. And there's the three of us sitting there.
Skippy Fish
was a type of American brand of lures.
That's right.
Yeah.
We sat in the garden, didn't we? Looking out across
it, and just having a few beers, sitting there in the sun. It was that was the first time I'd ever met you. That was years back.
I think if memory serves me correctly, I think actually I was going raying down Bulbury and you were going lure fishing, and we went off afterwards, didn't we? And I went down, and then you went down Solway and did a bit of lure fishing with Jim and that. And it was the first time we met.
Could couple beers in the garden,
yeah, it was cool.
That was years ago now, 2010.
I wouldn't have a clue. But
maybe even earlier. Yeah, okay, crazy, eh? Crazy.
But that was it. But anyway, so I moved up there. That was about 10 years ago, something like that, and. That was really how I got into the trade. It was a real random one, just out of the blue. Sometimes it's, I'm not one of these all sort of, airy-fairy stuff, but, I think sometimes fate, just things seem to happen, don't they? And
the universe aligns.
Yeah, you used to get a run of luck, don't you, where things just seem to drop on a plate and happen for you. And the flip side is sometimes you get a run of luck, everything just goes rubbish, doesn't it? Whatever you do, you're fishing, you just have a real run of it. And then, but I think there's always, you get in your hand in it or whatever. But anyway, that was a good period because I got a job. Working, again, with the fishing and you get that buzz. From being an angler and then working into the trade, I was just buzzed up. It didn't really matter what they paid me, and it wasn't a lot back then. I think it was just minimum wage or whatever it is. But it was just, when you fish a lot and then all of a sudden you're working in a fishing tackle wholesalers. I
had this about a month ago online with, I won't say his name, but a gentleman was commenting on I think he was pissed up, said about, working in the fishing industry and blah, blah, blah over the years. And he said, but you don't really work. You just do it some free packets of lures. I said, well, no, I've worked in the fishing industry for years. What, you make a living? I said, well, I don't make a living out of it, but it pays my bills and I work with it. Yeah, but I bet you don't live a lot. I said, that's irrelevant. I said, yes, I'm not balling in it, but I said, it pays my bills. It keeps my daughter dressed nice. I get to live a great life. And I said, take away, yes, I may not be earning megabucks, but I said, I've travelled the world. I've met amazing people. I get to go fishing. I work within my passion.
Even justify it to him.
No. I
Eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah, but like actually, you're right. I mean, yes, you weren't on like megabucks to start, but actually, the pros of the other side of the passion, being able to work in your passion, far outweighed
like
earning 2 or 3 quid more an hour than what I was on. You know,
it's like that Bob Marley thing when he's going, "Are you rich?" and he's going, "What is rich?"
Yeah. What do you clarify as rich?
What is rich?
Yeah.
You know.
It's definitely. I mean, everyone needs money, like nice things, whatever. But just a lot of things. I get it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? But it doesn't. You see a lot of rich people that seem to be pretty miserable, don't you?
Well, miserable.
Yeah, I think if you've got a hobby and a passion or something like that, that's worth a lot more than just having a load of money. And obviously, the more money you've got, the more you can indulge yourself in your hobby and your passion, and the nicer gear you can have, which is all cool.
Of course, yeah.
So you need it all, but it's
the only thing money can really buy you is time when you've got enough of it. In time is one of the
greatest shortcut to success as well, isn't it? Some people can just buy your
way into it. I get that.
You can buy yourself that time to be able to indulge yourself in that hobby. Because that is one of the things you need. Take the family life out of it. You got to be at work. You got to do this. You got to do that. The hobby comes right at the bottom end of your free time.
Yeah. And if you got money,
if
you can bump that passion up higher than
buy some of that time back. That's the only great use of it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right.
But it was it was just a dream really for me, and I really loved it, and it just sort of worked my way. Obviously the brands at the time, we had Sakuma. My boss had that. He'd actually just started importing a few hooks from Japan, and he built the brand Sakuma. So
that was like a sub brand within.
Yeah, it was. There was just really three.
For some people that may not know what Sakuma is, you just want to quickly just gloss over what Sakuma is quickly.
Yeah, well, it's really these hooks that got it all sort of like really sort of made, I suppose, because it was 3 different patterns. I didn't bring them all along, but there was the Manta Extra, the Phantom, and the Stinger. They were the 4 patterns that he brought in from Japan, and they basically just a crack, as you probably know, just a really, really good hook for the sea fishing over here.
We sell shitloads of them.
Exactly.
When we got them, we sell them.
It was all very basic back then. The packets are like yellow photocopied paper, and the marketing was all very simple. That's where sea fishing. The one thing I noticed, because I was carp fishing before I started in the trade, and I even back then in the mid to late 90s, I could see how carp fishing, the adverts were getting good and the packaging was getting good. They were definitely, and sea fishing was
no denying
it was rubbish. And that was the one thing I kind of worked hard on, was to get good packaging and do your adverts so it all looked quite professional, and just bringing.
How much is the retail on one of these?
They put me on the spot now, isn't it? I'll probably tell you the trade price, but I think they range from about £2 to about £4, depending on the size and the pattern.
Yeah, so you can't buy a packet of carp hooks for under what? A decent set of hooks, £7?
Yeah, I mean, $4.79 for standards. Kamakuras are £9 a box.
It's crazy. I mean, the one thing
One hook wonders.
Yeah,
I love those Kamakuras.
Do you find obviously you do standard, then you do is it Pro Series with the Japanese logos?
Yeah, we do 2 now. We do the standard and then we do the pros.
Pin sharp out the packet though, aren't they?
They are.
And they do an even better one as well.
That's the pro. That is the top range ones from Japan. The other ones.
Oh, sorry, it is.
Yeah,
they are pin sharp.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
very popular.
The one thing I will say between the carp and the sea fishing, it is crazy when you think that like a carp fishing brand could sell 10 size 6 or size 8 hooks for more than you could sell like 10 8-0s from Japan. It's where the marketing and the brand, but carp fishermen, you can sharpen them up, and fresh water is not as obviously as corrosive as salt water, so you can use those hooks for longer. I mean, I know they're advocating now that you only use them once, and it's a bit like the drop in the leads. I mean, carp fishing is, it's just
dump the lead. Yeah,
there's massive money in it now, isn't it? And it's so driven by the marketing power of it and the brand power of it. Where sea fishing isn't, and you can understand it because it's quite, sea fishing's tough on your gear. You lose a lot of kit. It just wouldn't be practical at those prices. I don't think people would be able to go if they were having to pay that.
No, I don't think you would. No.
Yeah,
if I came into the shop and they came to the counter and said they wanted hooks, and I had to justify the price of a sea fishing hook, whereas the carp guys, I can justify some kamakuras and explain it about it, and the carp
have to justify. They just go in and
the carper will be like, yeah, that's cool, yeah, I'm into that. Whereas Joe Blogg Sea Angler, if I had to justify, take that off the shelf and be like, well, yeah, we can say this, but it's going to be this. They're not going to do it.
No.
They're just going to buy the next other thing, you know. Yeah. So I get it. I do get it. But carp fishing definitely pushed a lot of brands in other disciplines to up their game,
and
because the carp scene really did.
Yeah, that was the first thing I sort of remember doing. I mean, you're just a small businesses. You do a bit of everything. But I started sea fishing. I saw there was a bit of that gap in the market. We had the product with the hooks. Just need to be marketed better, packaging improved. So that's all the things we did, and that's really was the start of Sakuma building up to what it is now. Really, you know, back then it was advertising Sea Angler, Total Sea Fishing. As I say, just improving packaging, bringing out new products, or, you know.
Did you work on a lot of that, did you?
Yeah, I did a lot of work. Jamie, that I worked with as well, he was integral to a lot of that. He was bringing, he helped sort of bring, he was the middleman. He worked with the guys to bring all this stuff into the country, and when he stopped, I worked with Kerry, another girl, and she's helped a lot with that side of it. So there's a lot of people that have had input into it over the years. Same with the Red Gill, buying the Red Gill brand as well. We purchased that.
How did that come about?
Yeah, again, that was Jamie.
Because that's that we spoke about before we started. That is the original.
I think they wanted to sell it. Basically, Alex Ingram, who designed the lure in the 50s and that, he passed away, I think, in the 90s. He passed it on to his family, kept it as a family business. But
that's a good looking lure, isn't it?
It is a good looking lure.
Yeah. But anyway, it came up for sale. Jamie, we were selling Red Gills all the time anyway. We were buying it.
You approached them, or did they approach you?
I think
for
it was just, I can't remember exactly how it came about, but I think they were. I think Jamie had inquired about it. There was mentions that they might be up for sale, and my boss decided that it was a good one to get, so we brought it. Moved it all up from Mevagissey. That was hard work.
I was going to say
Mevagissey. That's where they were designed, developed, everything, like I say, by Alex Ingram, and it stayed down in there until we brought it, and then we moved it up to Do you want
to pop the Red Gill page up?
Yeah, I mean, that was all the originals. Really, is what we brought. There was none of these new lures. This is around the time that the internally weighted.
They used to be like a solid colour, didn't they? Black or.
Yeah, they were. They basically used to come. There was not really any packaging either. They used to come in a bag of 10.
That
just put them in a little pot and sell them like that. So that was one of the first things we sort of did when we got it. We actually improved the packaging side of it, which is that was the original lures. They haven't really changed massively since.
I've got them on the boat.
Yeah, unweighted. You just thread the line through and put the hook in, pull it tight. They've been used, a long time like that. So we didn't do much with them. We just took over the production, improved the packaging, did a bit on the marketing as well.
Still they made in the UK?
Yeah, the original ones are. We go overseas for the internally weighted ones, just the price. And you can't produce them in this country at the right price now with the competition and everything. We did look at it, but it just wasn't practical. But
it's just all injection moulded.
We've got the machine up in Weymouth, spray booth. So basically everything, they're still made in the UK, the original ones, and we ship them all over the world. Europe, they're very popular. America, they're very popular as a teaser lure for the striped bass. They fish them in front of a plug. Sell a lot of those for that.
I still bump into the boys down Sheldon underneath a bombarder.
Yeah,
they swear by them. I mean, it's
definitely. We sell loads of Jackmans in Timoth in the summer. White 115mm Red Gills.
Nailed it in one, mate. On a bombarder, the old boys down there running it down the old nest wall.
Yeah,
and they catch fish. I mean, it's totally different to what we do, but you always have the same conversation with the old boys. They really like what we do, and I obviously, being an old school angler, I really appreciate where it's come from, and it's nice to see the clash of two different styles.
It's lovely to have sort of like a really British brand. I mean, they were the first person to, I think it was in the 50s, they were the first imitation artificial bait on the market. So that was basically the start of everything that was to come, if you know what I mean. And I think the patent ran out in the 70s, and then they were copied quite extensively. So there's a lot of different ones on the market. But it's just, again, it's a real nice thing to sort of have that brand and have the history of it, and the fact that we still make them in the UK as well. And
so is this one made in the UK?
No, they're not. Anything weighted isn't.
Anything weighted isn't.
Yeah, we import those ones. When when we brought the brand, it was a bit of a shame, really, because we brought it after there was like storm lures. Do you remember the storm shads?
The
they
shads.
sort of like they were the next revelation in the wreck fishing, weren't they? Because
we were using Mordecai broke. I went out fishing on Wednesday and Mordecai broke him out because he'd lost everything else basically. And then down in the bottom of his box, we're having a conversation about those exact lures.
Yeah,
this conversation we're about to have.
That was the one. Yeah,
they were the ones.
They were. I remember getting them from AD down at
Wild Eyes. Yeah.
You know, it was what was the tackle shop in Payton called? AD used to work in that. The Sportsman, wasn't it?
The sports room.
Yeah.
Sports
We used to
room.
buy,
You had the gun shop.
The gun shop upstairs. And
the
AD
downstairs.
they were importing them from America at the time.
It's now a Rowcroft. It's now a charity shop.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember when that one went. That was because downstairs was all the fishing stuff.
Yeah,
it was a big tackle shop.
It was a big tackle shop. Yeah.
So you got Tesco's, and then just down you got the road that upstairs where the Rowcroft building is. The upstairs used to be the gun room, and then downstairs was a hell of a tackle shop.
It was a really good tackle shop. They used to import a lot of stuff from America, including guns and that. Get a container, and they were bringing in those storm shads and the yellow packets. You know, we used to get like 5 or 6 different size weighted, and that was almost like there was that, and there was a Maxi Flex sand deal. They used to sell it in the back of Sea Angler. It used to be a little advert. And it was like a longer version of a shad, a bit similar to those ones there. And they were sort of like the first weighted lures, and that was the next revolution, I think, in that wreck fishing, because before that it was all unweighted lures. Jelly worms were a thing coming in from America, but there's no weight on them. And then those weighted shads, you know, they absolutely sort of like changed everything on the wrecking side of it, you know, and that led on. Then obviously like Sidewinder came about, and we never had a weighted lure then. We just had the original ones, but we thought, well, what we'd do is we won't change the design of the actual lure. We just want to add an internal weight to it and, you know, make it sort of like one of these new weighted ones. So that's all we did. We didn't actually change the design of the red gill. We just used that as the base, as you would, and put a weight in it. And yeah, at the time I was actually dealing with a lot of commercial rod and line anglers, and they, you know, we were testing them out on the boat, so we were going out to the Herd Steeps and
no better way than getting a bit of R&D.
Give them an absolute good pan. They worked an absolute dream. Caught a lot of pollock and cod, so we knew we were onto a good thing. So we put
decent hooks. I see you partnered with Mustad for the hardware on these.
We used the Mustad hooks on that, you know, and so the Evos But since then, we haven't really brought anything out. We brought a twin tail out and another sort of shaddy type.
The vibro shad.
That is it, yeah. A few different
the tail. It's a nice thumpy tail, isn't it?
That's the newest one. We've got the Iwashi one. And we put quite a bit of time and effort, again, into field testing it and doing it and making sure it was a little bit different to what was out there, the actual profile of it and everything. It wasn't just a copy of another lure. I mean, they're all quite similar, and you can't sort of kind of reinvent the wheel, but you try to, when you do something, you try to do something a little different.
We were having this conversation about lures the other day on the train, weren't we?
Yeah.
It's a fine line between copying someone and having. It's a fine line between copying someone and trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And
of course,
because a fish is a fish is a fish, and a lure is a lure. There's only so many tricks you can come out.
There is, isn't there? Yeah, it's new colour schemes you maybe want to look at a little bit, and just like slight little tweaks and little changes, more to put your own sort of mark on it. You know, it's, if you can make something that's obviously going to improve it as a lure, that's the main thing you can do. But
of course,
again, all these things, they're not that much different to what people were using 30, 40 years ago. Obviously, the weight.
It's just modern twists, isn't it? You know, it's very. I mean, it is its own subgenre in lures. Yes, there's tons of variation in soft plastic lures, but for what you do for this, whether it be on a flying collar, Portland rig, or just dropping them down in shallow water with the weighted ones, there is only so much you can do within that kind of genre.
Fair,
if that makes sense,
definitely. I think what you do with the shore,
very different,
a little bit different again. But for more when you're looking at it on the boat with a lure perspective, like you say, you are just dropping it down. I mean, you can do various different things with it, but you sort of the speed
ultimately,
that you drop, how far you come up, and that.
You got to weigh it out. I mean, when you weigh. It's all very well putting loads of R&D and making this all frills, all singing and dancing and doubling the price, but then on the first cast it gets bunged into a wreck.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm less likely in my genre of lure fishing, I can almost guarantee in some places I'm not going to lose as much, So there is a fine line of weighing out that difference between the R&D to make it look the bollocks and it just being a tool. In essence, it's a commodity tool to catch fish.
I think you need that in sea fishing. I think you need to get your price points sensible because the gear takes a right battering. Whether you like you say, wreck fishing, losing a lot of gear in wreck. Shore fishing, you'd be fishing rough ground. Your hooks get done in just reeling them across sand enough times, you know.
Yeah,
so you can't. You got to make sure that the price points are good for the angler. I think otherwise, you know.
Yeah. You're going to do a weedless one.
I'm looking at maybe doing weedless jig head versions of that lure. We only brought them in a couple of weeks ago, and we're pretty much having to order them again now. We haven't really done any marketing on them yet either, so it's sort of like
the shops and went.
Yeah, we just got them to the reps, and then just word of mouth and things like that. And they've been
Nice.
nearly sold the first lot anyway. So we're going to order again, probably add some more colours and do some variations on it. Want to have a bit of a push with red gear. It's been more
Real
the shore
black
angler.
one.
Sakuma's
Real
been
dark
because.
one.
You know, like I say, I did a bit of wreck fishing when we were developing the brands, but I've not done as much with regular. I probably should have done as what we've done with Sakuma, but we want to start doing a bit more with it.
Do you have like a team, or do you?
Yeah, there's guys, like I say, the people I work with, Kerry I work with, and Ben, who's a brother. Ben's the guy who does a lot of the manufacturing side of the red gill. He does, he looks after the, like I say, the manufacturing process, all the spraying and things. So he's obviously helps out with it as well. So there's quite a lot of people that have input into both of the brands, really. So yeah, I mean,
any ambassadors that you have out that promote the brands, or is it more it sells itself? You know,
pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's what with Ben now. The social media side, we've had a Facebook page with Sakuma and Red Gill for quite a number of years. I don't do a lot of social media myself, so it's sort of like I'm 50 now, so I'm sort of, again, from the time when I started, I'm a little bit, but yeah, we need to sort of do a little bit more on those aspects of it. But we've always had sort of people associated with the brands over the years, good anglers, people like you said, like Rob York, that sort of caliber anglers with Sakuma and stuff. But now it's very difficult because it's difficult to, you want to have good anglers associated with it, but it's very difficult to say, we can't do anything with you, because you get a lot of, again, the interaction with social media. There's so many people who want to be sponsored, who have got YouTube channels, and you can't do everyone, can you? Because it's just not practical, and it's very difficult to pick and choose. So I suppose, even though, we're working a bit with Ben, the Fish Slayer now, and we've got other people around that do very good stuff. So we are sort of starting to get a little bit of a team together, and
that's what the pro team is, isn't it?
Yeah, we got a lot, but like Alex said, you got to pick I don't. Sorry to mention a competitor, but there's another brand that have a new pro team, and they've handpicked some assassins, and that's the way to do it. Like Alex was just saying, you can,
as in the local branch. Yeah.
You
but
can.
The way that they picked them is they didn't go out to guys. They were watching how much social media they were
see
getting
who were the guys
first, who was actually believing in their brand, and then they went to them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to do your research on it and do it all.
Yeah, you don't just give people a load of lures and go and get me something, because you ain't going to get nothing.
No,
you're just going to get somebody with their hands out.
Again, you want the right people, the people who've got the passion for the sport. They want to be involved with it, not just to get some free stuff.
Just to get a bag of 100 quid of gear, and then you don't hear from them again. No, because that happens.
It does, yeah, of course it does.
It does happen, yeah.
It's but yeah, I mean, it's a changing world now. The marketing with the magazines. I mean, you still got Sea Angler that are still going, but on the whole, there's not
print
really,
is dead, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you've got to look at this, and
not.
hence why we're looking at the YouTube more and stuff, and do more
These
of that
sorts of things.
Exactly,
This is the way.
It's the way you get your
long format content. You can take snippets out of for the positive, and not what they did with me with the negative.
Yeah,
stitch me up a kipper. But
also, what we can do, I mean, I know we're going to talk about something else later on away from this, but I mean, obviously, I'm going to put it to you now. Why don't we get a bundle of this, and we'll do a share giveaway on your behalf of the brand through our channels, and we maybe get sort of 5 or 6 packets of these, and we'll do a giveaway which can get you some eyes on your channel through our network, but also gets you a bit of exposure. You just
giving away all me lures, Dan.
I'm sure we can sort you out.
But
just thinking that's something that we can directly offer.
Yeah, we're doing like in
conjunction with
across to whichever one of the social ones you want.
We can conjunction in with your episode when it launches, that we get some guys and we can tag each other in, and I mean, every little helps. I mean, and ultimately, like you've said, these are made in England, sprayed in England, and for the majority of it, and I'm all for supporting that. And
I think it's something that's not that common these days, is it?
If that's something you'd like to do,
you nailed it on the head. It's hard. It's expensive. Trying to get anything in the UK made is just way too much money. I couldn't make the bars for Tuna Gear. I couldn't have all of those squids injection molded in the UK. It'd make that bar 500-600 quid. I just couldn't do it. As much as I want to, who am I going to sell it to?
Exactly. It's a big investment actually getting the mould done as well to make that product. That's not cheap. And then obviously you've got to get the machine to done it, and then you've got to pay for someone to run it. There's
even taking it out to the parties that have that equipment in the UK. I had in the very early days, we had conversations with people. Could we do this? Could we do that? Or even having like the Centrebirds 3D printed. And I started going down the route of it.
But even the QC quality control side of that, when you're producing in mass numbers, just someone to have to hand pick through, and even if they're just doing a couple of every 100 just to check. I mean, it's still a full-time job that you've then got to implement all that into. So it's no joke. Not something you can just think, oh yeah, we'll do that, because it isn't the case.
No, it's not. Quality control is important.
Because you'll soon lose your brand if that's wrong. You put a load of shit out, then you'll lose as quickly as you can gain it by putting good quality product out. You get a load of faults and a load of cuts, missed sprays and all sort of stuff because it hasn't been QC'd properly.
Yeah.
With the but unfortunately, as we were just saying, social media, as much as social media can be an absolute awesome tool, social media can bury you as well.
It can, yeah. It's definitely got its pluses and its negatives.
Absolutely, yeah.
So where's Sakuma's, now that you're looking at that more social media side of things and where you're going with it, bringing guys in, have you got like a plan to push it forward with new products and new things?
Yeah,
or are you just trying to cement your base into where you are and just...
Well, yeah, there's a bit of both, I suppose, really. I mean, we are always looking for, more products to put out. I think that's the thing now with the tackle trade. There's so much tackle on the market now. You need to be on it, really. You can't just sort of live off the past, if you know what I mean. Yeah. You will have always your core base where people have used your products for a long time and will always use them. People are quite loyal to brands, aren't they, as long as they keep the quality side of it up and everything. But I think you need to make sure you're doing everything right now. If you want to grow as a brand and build, you need to add new products. You need to make sure they're tested well. As I said before, it's always want to try and do something. You can't always do it, but you want to bring out something that's a little bit different or put your own sort of slight take on it rather than just, like I say, just doing the stuff that everyone's doing. I mean, you can't, beads and clips and things like that. That's difficult to do. But yeah, you're always looking for new sort of exciting sort of things that you can put out. But yeah, the marketing side of it is the bit that you've also got to be, like say these days with YouTube.
So Sakuma as a brand then, so we got like the hook patterns. I mean, there's a good number of hook patterns.
Yeah, the hooks, I mean, we do a lot of line as well.
Lines, beads,
all that
tools.
Stuff. Basically all the terminal tackle, we're doing more tools now. Some nice filleting knives. And I've got a nice T-bar. This is going really well, actually.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, I think we've had them in the shop.
Yeah, they sell really well, actually. Yeah, so there's bits like that. We've got a new range of luggage.
I was filleting on Wednesday and managed to nick myself. It would not stop bleeding.
Yeah, so we are, looking.
Got quite
we're quite a big range.
Okay, cool.
We're working on new bits all the time. We are starting to release more and more stuff, and that's again. That I kind of sometimes you forget the real enjoyment side of your job because obviously there's a lot you've got to do and sort out. But when you actually...
Is that a metal handle?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Nice, that.
Yeah.
Nice touch.
Yeah, you can have that one for your boat. So,
thank you.
They're quite robust, so yeah.
I like that.
Quite light as well. There's not, it's not too much strong but light.
It's a nice knife as well, isn't it?
Yeah. You fancy that as well?
I've got filleting knives coming out of my ear holes.
No.
When in painting, get your knife out.
I've got them coming out of my ear.
As I say,
I always have another one.
It's interesting and fun developing stuff because you get the prototypes and it's not just the case, I just pick something out of someone's catalogue.
I like the sharpener in the end.
Yeah, that's
a good little touch, that is.
Yeah.
I'll get on, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's ceramic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just top it up just off that, yeah.
Nice.
Again, it's a little bit different, again, it's something that's not...
different. I like that. It's a good touch.
I mean, Rapala will offer them up, but there'll be a separate little ceramic sharpener, but you lose that. But actually built into the case.
In the sheath is a good little thing.
Yeah, nice little touch that. I like that.
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't mine. We were importing some knives from a company in Sweden.
No, shut up.
I quite like that idea, so I thought,
I like that.
But it's,
yeah, but you still have to spot that thing and go, that's a nice little touch.
Yeah, and you still have to incorporate it and change a few bits in it, But that's part of I do really enjoy that side of... the job, the designing and developing of new products and new things like that. It's interesting, adds that variety to it.
Nice, man. That's cool.
So yeah, that's where we are really with Sakuma. We're looking at sort of just growing it, increasing to grow it, and just do a bit more better marketing really. Cause it's something that I think we've we haven't been as on it as we could have been. Again, partly down to myself being a bit of a dinosaur, really, with all the social media side.
So
of
within
it.
Swift, you run the Sakuma side of things.
Well, because it's a family, sort of smallish family business. We haven't got loads of staff there, so everyone's got to chip into a little bit of everything. So it's the day-to-day running of the wholesale side of it that we have to do, which is obviously dealing with the shops. Yeah, dealing with all the products, getting all the stuff in. There's lots to it, and also one of those things is the development. Product development and the marketing as well, which is the thing that I enjoy the most with doing it. But it's not like I go to work and do that all day. You've also got to make sure all the shop orders go out the same day. You've got to deal with the shops. You've got to deal with your suppliers, not just the people that supply us with the gear that we brand ourselves. Also, your companies like Breakaway, Kamasan, all the other stuff that we supply. You've got to make sure that's all in stock and all those sort of things.
I know, obviously personally, you cover everything from flies,
flies,
shirts, this lot. So
there's a lot to do.
There's quite a lot underneath that.
It's a very, you're doing lots of different things, right? Your days go quickly, there's a lot going on, but it also is interesting as well. You're not just doing the same thing all the time.
That's probably quite nice, isn't it? Not having just to be stuck in one thing all the time, picking different things up.
Yeah, that's what I said, go back before. If I just worked in a warehouse, just say, for instance, doing golf stuff, which I've got no interest in. If you just pick,
of course,
I'm doing something that's my hobby, and I think that's sort of, I had to think that the passion sort of comes through a bit in what you're doing with the gear and everything as well, because you've got an interest in it, and
So we've mentioned it a couple of times now, and I won't go too much detail into, obviously, Swift is the company, and obviously as that's a wholesaler.
Yeah.
So then there we have the brands like your Sakuma, your Red Gill. So Joe Blogg's public doesn't need to know too much about Swift because they won't deal with that. But if you're a shop and you want to sell this, obviously Swift is something that you need to know. So if you had a shop that wanted to potentially get this in and hasn't, how's it easiest for them to contact you guys just to get this in their shops?
I'm pretty sure. I think we've got a B2B site. I think there's a splash page out there, so people, it is on the, details are there, so shops can do. A lot of we have got reps as well, and I think we've been in the trade quite a long time. I think a lot of shops would sort of know.
I can't think of a shop I walk into that I don't see a blue wall of Sakuma or something like that. So I think you're pretty much everywhere anyway.
It's quite a few, definitely. Obviously,
how many shops do you think you supply?
I don't know exactly what the number is. So we've. Domestically, we've probably got a couple hundred shops that we probably deal with. I would think maybe, I guess, something along those lines.
That and obviously has to be a chunk of the independent tackle shops.
There isn't. I don't recall ever going to a shop and not seeing Sakuma hooks really within reason. Maybe the odd little Midlands coursey shops that may not have them, but most
sort of belt we don't do so much in, because that's more around the coast, obviously, because of the sea fishing side.
Absolutely.
You have lost, unfortunately, you have lost quite a lot of shops in recent years. It's tough, it's not an easy industry to be in.
It's not, and a subject very dear to me because I'm in it. It's
tough out there.
You're right. It is no joke, and unfortunately,
I think the shops these days have to be really on it. They've got to have all the things in all the pies.
You've got to have walk-in. You've
got to be doing it all, or you've got to have a good. I'm not going to say that you've got to, because I think there's a lot of good shops out there that they've got a really good customer base, whether they're near a fisheries or somewhere like that, and they sort of. But the shops I think that can survive, because they've just got a good core of customers, or they supply very good bait, or they're near a very good fishery. I think Max at the Tackle Trade is a good example. I know he does a bit online, but we do quite a lot with Max. But
Low and Chai, no e-commerce, same sort of thing. Low and Chai,
but then he does, he's brilliant with the bait, the course, because he's very involved with the Newton Angling Club. He's, so I think there's certain shops that don't have to be like really on it with all the mail order, but I know the ones I know.
Hooks in Torquay, they're right down there on the harbour. All the commercial boys are in and out of there.
They've got a very good. Where their position can make a big difference, can't it? Things like parking as well, access. I know Matt down at Southwest Sea Baits in Plymouth. He's doing well down there because he does a lot with the bait and everything. But he's another one that he's doing a very busy person, doing lots of stuff to make that business work, which it is. So I think you can run a good. You can be in the tackle trade, have a shop and everything, and do it well. You just are. I think any trade, I think at the moment, but obviously being the fishing trade, I know that more than anything. It is just hard work, whether you're a shop or a wholesaler or a brand or everything. You've got to work hard at it. I don't think when I first started in it, I got the impression that you didn't need to. it wasn't that difficult
build
because
it, they will come.
It was a made industry, wasn't it then? But
now it's
And good on you guys for like we've just said that you have identified that you want and need to do a bit more social media and a bit more out there. And good on you for noticing that, because there's that's where a lot of brands cannot, and they end up having troubles down the line. So good on you.
It's your main marketing tool now, isn't it? As I said, with the demise of the magazines, really, to a certain extent, everything is online. So if you want to market your stuff, and the thing is, you can sort of jazz it all up as well now, can't you? The stuff you can do, the graphics and all the things you can make.
And ultimately, all of us have got one of these in our hands most of the time. So if you
can branding is probably your most important thing. It's something that I've worked on incredibly hard with what we do.
Yeah.
People buy into that brand. People want to be part of that brand.
Well, how many people have we seen out and about and see our little squid logos wherever we go around and stop us to talk about it,
Yeah, it's cool. It almost becomes, it has transgressed from just fishing to fashion as well, isn't it? Now,
streetwear.
You think of the clothing
and again, you can thank
it's
good old carp industry again for being the first to make that stuff cool,
Yeah. I think real tree sales, wasn't they, with carp fishing? I
mean, Mossy Oak went from being a hunter's brand to being phenomenal. And not like now, and I said the other day, actually...
Double DPM.
But Realtree's now a fashion. Now you see all the high street shops have got Realtree trousers.
I would not call that fashion in the slightest.
but that goes to show you where it's come from. I mean, back in the day, people on the canal.
Mark, the guy from Fox Pictures, he's got that hipper something chunk. What's it called? He's got his own clothing brand. Hipper Potter. I can't even remember. It's in bloody Asda. He's managed to get that carp brand into Asda. I saw it on socials the other night.
Yeah,
I can't even pronounce the bloody word of it. But yeah, he was in his local Asda, and there it is on the aisles. They've got a carp brand of clothing into bloody Asda.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You look at the American market though, and you look how cool a lot of that, the clothing and everything that they wear in it. It's all like, fishing is the fashion side of it as well.
For anybody that's had the pleasure to go to the States and go into a Bass Pro or a Cabela's or a World Sportsman, eye opener.
Yeah, it is. But you are starting to see it, over here getting more like. And I think sea fishing it went from being, like a bobble hat, bells on the end of the pier.
We've said high vis jacket, 2 mismatched rods on the end of the pier.
And now
carry a bag of bait on the floor.
Now it's quite sort of fashionable in a sense, isn't it? You look at Century, again, nice, obviously a rod brand, English rod brand, but they're quite, it's quite fashion conscious, isn't it? And I think anglers are,
they want the waders, with Mustang Survival with their clothing that they do from the boats and all that sort of stuff.
It is a crossover,
Absolutely.
to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not unusual now, is it, to go out to the supermarket and you'll see someone wearing a fishing brand.
You have that little nod at each other, don't you? As you carry on down, you're like, he can't, he does this, he does that. Yeah. There's no more enjoyment. So we were out, I was fishing with the boys on Wednesday, and I'm sat at the back of the boat, and there's just 2 lads in Tuna Gear hoodies. Like, they just turn up to go fishing, everyone's got a Tuna Gear hoodie on.
Yeah.
I've got that video of us walking out of the show, there's like 7 lads walking down the side of the Big One show. It's just a big Tuna Gear logo on the back of the top. And it's like, I've got a photo from the tuna tournament as well. All the lads, we all went down, and I was outside talking to my missus. I've turned around, I'm looking through the pub window, and there's 7 lads in a row, all in the hoodies, just the Tuna Gear circle hoodie in a row at the bar. I've got a photo of it on my phone. Like, that meant more to me than anything else we had done last year. Like, I absolutely loved that. But that's lads, they're my mates, so they're more than willing to help. But that's where the power of branding comes into it. If you had a stupid hoodie, your mate still ain't going to wear it. It's, lads, customers want to be part of, if they believe in something, they want to be part of it.
Yeah, they do. I
think it's that tribal thing in humans. They get very much into it. Because it's the first time Ben came up to the show. He's got a Sakuma hat on. He's got a Sakuma hoodie on. Like, he
sent me the pictures.
He was rocking that stuff up.
He was, and it's and we are looking at a new range of clothing. Actually, I won't say too much about it. It's still sort of in the works at the moment, but it's a bit more driven to the fashion side of it, like we've talked about. I think all these things are. Yeah, it's all just things to look at, isn't it, when you work with
lads will wear it. If they're into your brand, they will wear it.
Social media, everyone puts a fish picture up. If you've got a nice branded cap or a hoodie, you don't even have to say anything. You can now have a picture of someone smiling with a bass or gill or whatever with a logo in it. And you say nothing. That the brand is right there, you know. And the fly industry have done it for years. The carp industry the carp industry for a long, long time started putting their brand logos here. Because the cat shots, it's on your shoulder. You always say it because it was covered by a fish here, but you put it there, you can read it. And Vaz did that. That's why the Vaz logo is there, so you can see it in the photographs of a fish.
One of Rob Supreme's idea and stuck it in the middle.
That is such a trivial little thing. But actually, when you think about it, you can. Oh, he's got a Sakuma cap. Oh, he's got anglers only cap on because you don't need to say anything. It's in a picture.
It's just there. I've always sort of said, the best marketing you can have is good anglers catching good fish
with a smile on their face. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't really need to say any more than that. You don't need to go.
No words needed.
Really, but like I say, if they've got something on that, but even if it's just being on your social media, that's what people ultimately is the game, isn't it? Whether you're a specimen angler and you see like a big specimen fish, or if you're a match angler, you see someone who's won a match. If they're using your gear,
like Bob Nudd in his white hat,
exactly,
just renowned, wasn't it, for Browning?
It's like Terry Earn, wasn't it, with Realtree, wasn't it?
The knitted jumper and stuff like that. All of a sudden, everybody ESP came out with the knitted jumper, didn't they?
Yeah, but sea fishing has been a bit behind, like say, the carp fishing for sure, but it is catching up now quite quickly.
Yeah, it's coming. At a pace. I would say. I haven't been in the sea fishing scene anywhere near as long as all the lads around me, and I can see it coming because we spoke about it was 2 mismatched rods, a high vis jacket on the end of a pier, and it ain't that.
It definitely is. I mean, there's still, again, said before, different things. You can't. There is still that side of it, like a load of mates sort of want to go out and fish off a pier, it's there for everyone fishing, isn't it?
100%. But there's that niche side of it is now.
It's coming along. It's becoming a bit more fashionable. Carp fishing is quite fashionable, isn't it? As in the fishing side of things, and I think sea fishing. One note change I've sort of seen coincides with the social media. I think you're seeing a lot more people in their 20s to 40s that are chasing the specimen fish that have got YouTube channels, and they're very driven. But it's all it's reminds me a little bit of the carp fishing. Where they're on like a difficult lake chasing sort of fish and. You're sort of seeing that a little bit, and they're doing some good podcasts and they're doing some good chat, about targeting big. It's always that sort of. It's making it a bit more trendy to younger people, isn't it? I think sea fishing now and the lure fishing with what you do with the, expensive lures and rods.
Of course,
It's, I don't know if the price is a factor in it, but people are prepared to pay money for the quality now, aren't they? Yep. I think before in sea fishing, a lot of people were like, oh God, I'm not going to spend £600 on a rod or £400 on a multiplier or 30 quid on a lure. Well, people will pay that now for it. I know that contradicts a little bit what I said before about.
No, but it is. There are pockets of that. I mean, I know when we mentioned Jared on and been at your parents' house.
More terminal tackle I was talking about before with regards to the usability in it running. But I think the top end stuff people will pay big money for rods and reels because they know they're going to get performance out of it. It's going to last.
Us, me and Jim O'Donnell years ago. Total Sea Fishing magazines and promoting the brands that I worked for, Mega Bass and people like that back in the day. And it was probably 50-50 split down the middle. Guys that were like, oh, why on earth would I pay that for? Because I had various cheapo lures that were still around. And then there was the guys that were absolutely on buyed in. Whereas nowadays you can go out with your primo brands that are quite serious money. They can be 30 quid upwards of hard baits for bass lures and 15 quid soft lures and all sorts of things. It's no longer a hard sell because the industry has naturally progressed, and I guess that's again we can take that back to the carp market. It's kind of gone in this sort of way where now, yes, you still have the cheap options, but the natural slot for my sort of side industry is that's what it is. Yeah, they're happy. They know they're buying, like you said, they recognise the brand, its pedigree, what it is, because that's what it is. That you don't need to force sell.
You don't know
because. You are a Mega Bass guy. You are wearing Costa glasses and whatnot. That is just that industry, So, and if you can correlate that into other brands, like you say, for you, I've said it a couple of times tonight. You walk into the shop and Blue Packets, that's your hooks. People know what that is.
That association.
It's associated they're Sakuma hooks. We know what they are, and I
used them for years.
They sell and they do sell. Whenever we get a restock at ours, occasionally if he gets them in, they sell. They don't hang around.
No,
they go.
That's it. Yeah, but so you can't just rely on what you've done in the past. I think you got to
making the changes, adding your pro Ranger hooks, developing your different style lures.
That's it. You're always looking to evolve, aren't you?
And good on you to identify that. Because
definitely, yeah. I think it's key really because like I say, you just don't want to rest on you. And also, it becomes a bit boring, isn't it? importing the same old stuff, doing the same old thing all the time. It just
I love finding new products. That's what gets me.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting and see how you can sort
Get
of
them
change.
in, hold them, take them for a fish, see what this happens with this.
It's good. You get a base of something or an idea, and then you talk to your suppliers, and then you get the first prototypes, and then you go out and test them, and then oh no, that's not quite right, and you tweak something, and also you're interacting with people that your field testers. You've always got people around you that you give stuff to do, and that's interesting as well because you get their take on it, and that's the good thing with sea fishing. They're so varied, as I touched on earlier. You've got so many different species and types of fishing. It's like so many products that I think sometimes that's where people may go wrong a little bit in their fishing. They think maybe certain things will do everything, but it doesn't in sea fishing. You've got to be quite particular about what gear you're using for certain species if you want to be successful at that. So you need to look at what you're using and for what. And so it's you've got loads to work with there. It can be a little bit of a minefield because you're trying to sort of.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, it's just quite a privilege really to be doing it.
I've got a question. Where did that photo come from?
You might recognise it possibly. It's actually taken from, it's down in Bantham, the Bigbury side of Bantham.
Right, okay.
Yeah, if you're going out, you probably know it, Danny, from your lure fishing down that way. If you're going out to Bigbury, Burr Island way, you park up on the left, there's a little slip that goes down. If you cut back into the River Avon, as you go down round there, there's some rocks that stick out into the water. It's a good bass mark.
Fucking hell, yeah.
And I didn't even... it's weird that you said that actually because it sort of ties into what we were talking about before.
The reason I ask, it's very different to what you normally see within a brand. Like when we were doing our brand, instead of having a tuna, we had a squid.
Yeah.
You've got a rock.
Yeah.
See, everybody else would have had a fish or a something. I like the fact that they've done.
It's really good. Basically, when the Sakuma brand used to be.
Oh, it is on the packets as well.
Before that, it's the first packaging was literally a yellow bit of photocopy paper in a packet, and that's what it was. And it was rubbish. So one of the first things I wanted to do was improve that packaging. So we needed to come up with a new design. So we got a lady. I think she was called Lucy, and she lived in Exeter. She was, she's just one of these small sort of people that sort of did designs and that for people. I can't think of what they're called, but. Anyway, she had that picture on a wall that she'd taken, and it was nothing to do with fishing. She'd just taken it, and I just saw it, and I said, "That's a great picture." And I just thought we can use that for sure. And my boss Richard, he come up with the actual Sakuma font was always the same, but he wanted to use that. I think he'd seen it on. I think Hovis used to use it. Hovis bread. They used to have that sort of mercury type sort of effect.
It looks like poured metal.
Yeah, and he said something. So we used. So there was quite a few different. But that picture was basically just someone had sort of taken it and we'd seen it and thought, we can make that work. And she managed to adjust it and we've used it ever since, really. But it's a great. Yeah, I've actually caught some nice.
No, but it's part of its brand identity, isn't it?
Yeah,
part of the brand identity. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, we use it on everything now, whether it's obviously the packaging, but also any sort of adverts that we do and things like that. It's always there, and it's sort of I think people see that and they know it's the brand. It's that brand awareness, and it has got a bit of personal because it's down where I've caught some nice bass fishing right next to that rock, like in the mouth of the estuary. So it's it's another sort of nice little touch. But always been really happy with Sakuma. That hasn't changed much at all over the years since we changed it to that. I don't see the point in changing something if it doesn't need changing. I think it's just a case of obviously graphics now you can bring into it and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But it's a bit like BMW won't change a BMW badge, will they? Or Volks, or things like that. I think unless not many people rebrand unless
they refine, they don't change.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Listen to you. Refine, don't change. That's great.
It's more product and the way you market it now, isn't it?
Well, look at the absolute debacle of Exeter Chiefs going from the old style Indian to now the bloke with the Roman helmet on, and they've changed that logo, and it's caused uproar.
What was the point? I think
it's the same logo. It's politics made them change it from a chief Indian because it's racist and it's like culture appropriate.
I'd flat refuse.
Yeah, exactly. But
shut up.
But that caused chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Chaos, So
no point
about evolving a logo, not just having a total change because you can alienate a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit like the Red Gill one as well. We've changed that ever so slightly from buying it. It used to be a bit more old fashioned, the sandy, although it was like a bit more cartoony, and now we've we changed that a little bit, but we tried to keep the identity of the brands anyway without sort of
cool.
too much to them really.
So what's your plan for fishing for the rest of this year?
Right. Just coming into the time, sort of the bream and that start coming into the estuaries. So yeah, that'll probably take up most of my time through the summer months. I would think I'll probably do a little bit more with Ben. I enjoyed that trip on Chesil. I haven't fished Chesil since last autumn. I still like to do a bit of soul fishing in the autumn. Autumn's probably my favourite time for sea fishing because you get a right crossover of species. There's a lot to go at, and I've been a little bit blinkered in recent years with just chasing the bream. They've really got under my skin, and that's what my sort of thing is really my passion at the moment. But yeah, I do miss doing a bit of the other stuff. So yeah, I kind of want to do a little bit more variation, but we'll see how it goes.
Are we going to see you on the YouTube channel then?
I did that one. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I'll be doing a little bit more, I think. Yeah, it doesn't come naturally to me.
Alex on tour.
That's definitely nothing like that now. I do a few with Ben. I kind of would rather...
We do the Tuna Gear Chronicles, although we've only got one up. I'm waiting for the other one to come. The other one's been a bit painful. We've been waiting for some stuff to come from a Spanish scientist, and I had to wait for it to go through ICAP before, so they had the information, and then we could release said information because ICAT had used it, and because it's their information. We technically shouldn't have it. But yeah, the Tuna Chronicles are just me going off on fishing on different people's boats. Yeah. It's as much to try and help those other boats as well, us coming down. It's indirect marketing for us, and I get to go fishing with other people. I'm sure you'll get comfortable with it. We'll get you mic'd up and we'll do some practice runs.
No, I don't mind this. I don't mind
all right with this. You know, you forget the cameras are there, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it yesterday with Ben. Actually, I think it's the way it's all put together and the way it's. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's something you've got to do as you sort of move on now. It's a lot more like that, and I don't mind doing a bit of it. I'd rather do more of other people doing the sort of stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Just being in, working with them to get the stuff out there. I don't really want to make it about me in any way at all, but I don't mind doing a few bits now and again. Like I said, I enjoyed it with Ben yesterday, and we're going to do a few more 4 bits as well. But
that makes you feel very comfortable sitting on camera. It's not.
Yeah, it does.
It's not in your face what you're doing over there, sort of thing. It's all just click.
Yeah.
Chat like this. It's it's not.
It's definitely that's it. And again, it's something that you need to sort of be doing, really, I think now, and people find it interesting. You look, a lot of people want to sit and watch fishing videos, don't they?
That's all I watch.
Exactly. A lot of people don't watch telly anymore. I spoke to someone the other day said he doesn't even watch telly anymore. He just watches YouTube, and that's mostly fishing.
That's all I watch.
Yeah.
I don't watch telly at all now.
No, it's just full of nonsense.
Hardcore pornography.
Fishing porn, some people refer it to. Don't they? Remember someone sending me.
I don't want to see that sort of porn. I've had enough. Fair enough, mate.
Nice,
okay, so that's what you want. You know what Danny's up to. That's all right.
So yeah, but yeah, I will probably do a little bit. I'll still be doing a bit of carping as well. I say I'm on a syndicate now with a friend, so we'll be doing I don't fish, don't get the chance to do a lot of carping, but yeah, I'll probably do a handful of trips a year. But I do enjoy those now. It's also as I'm getting a bit older, I do quite like having 24 hours just on the bank. You can actually sort of sit and chill. I mean, I see fishing here, especially, you walking for hours, climbing up and difficult access, wading around places, got to keep all your bait fresh, or there's a lot to it. It's whereas carp fishing, I know there is, if you're really into it, there's really loads like all the baiting up and everything, but it's nice sometimes just to get a bag of bait out of the freezer, prepare a few particles, get it all planned sort of in the week, and then you're there. It's a bit of a rigmarole, setting all your gear up and everything, but when all that's done, you think, I've got 24 hours now, I can just obviously work at your fishing, but it's not like casting out every 10, 15 minutes, is it? Or, you sort of, I know you can get breamed out, or the tench can be a pain, but it's not like sea fishing where you sort of like, sometimes, you sort of like, there's so many factors that can make a trip a blooming hard. You're always working really hard when you sea fishing, I think, anyway. Whereas carp fishing, you've got a bit of downtime. So as I get older, I appreciate that a bit more. But I think, the summer months will be spent sort of, running around the estuaries as per usual, probably bumping into you from time to time, I expect.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of that on YouTube. Be a good watch.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's.
You can start like me on camera, super awkward to start with. Hi, I'm Andy from Tuna Gear. Like, it was the most awkward thing I ever had to do. You just get super
Yeah,
comfortable.
I done one with
it.
Ben yesterday. He sent me the thing. It's actually going live next Thursday with the YouTube channel, so we're putting it up then. And he sent me through the first sort of edit of it, and it looks really good. The way he's cut it together and made it look good.
We'll give it a share.
Yeah. I'll let you know when it's up and running. It's I felt a bit uneasy, but it's a bit new. But in the end, you sort of once you sort of get a bit like this, really. Once you start, you sort of and really it was just fishing, and Ben was coming over now and again when he caught a few fish. I had a quick look at the rigs. There was nothing, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. I don't think sometimes people want to sort of watch something that's too detailed on every single aspect, do they? They want to see the basics of it, and you catch a few fish and a bit of the scenery. I don't think you need to be doing sort of hour-long technical everything on it. I mean, some people might...
attention span, we can talk about that in a bit, but you lose people after a certain amount of time.
Get on.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I think you came across real well. I think people are going to enjoy this.
It's a little bit, I suppose, an insight into
different.
You get trade, isn't it? I suppose.
Another UK business that supporting a UK business, and that's a win for us. And I think,
that's why we did this. It wasn't just to talk about our fishing and stuff like that, was it? I wanted to go and I want to talk to guys like you, talk to guys like Ben.
We've got some great anglers down in this part of the world, really, really good anglers. A lot of them don't want any recognition. They just do it because they're passionate about it. But, there's some out there that work bloody hard at their fishing. They catch some really good fish. And I think that's something where I might look at. There's a few guys that I know that are brilliant anglers, and I'd like to put them in the limelight so they can talk about their fishing and what they've caught. Because I think especially now you've got new generation, you've got sort of younger anglers coming through. Some of these older guys, so I'm not going to say old, but
we're heading that way, mate.
Cool. I mean, obviously the fishing back then was probably a bit better than what it possibly is now, and the numbers of fish that were about and things like that. But they've got some stories to tell for sure. So I'm going to try and get some of those guys involved with the brand as well. We might be able to do a bit of collaboration with that as well. So
mate. Awesome.
I think that's it. That sort of stuff is stuff I find interesting. And the one thing I've noticed you see in carp fishing, which is really good. I think some of the guys, like Terry Earns one, I've mentioned him before, when he does his videos.
He sat next to his fire.
Just the way he talks and the passion about
he's a very good
targeting the fish. And I know that's more difficult in sea fishing, but I think if someone can sit down and tell a story about how they caught the British record gilt-head bream or the British record conger, or how they've wanted to catch that fish and gone about targeting them and could do it with the passion and the interest that in those, I think that's sea anglers missing that a little bit. And I think if you could do something like that and put some of those anglers and make it look good and put some pictures, that would be, for me, that's something I'd love to watch. I've not seen anything like that yet.
No, cool.
So something I'd like to try and maybe sort out.
Let's look forward to the next chapters then, Alex.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, mate. I super
pleasure.
enjoyed that. What we will do is I won't keep all of this. We will be giving this away. We'll do, when your episode drops, we'll work it out in a minute, but we'll do a like and share, and we'll push him to the Sakuma.
Yeah, no, I'll leave you the Sakuma and the Red Gill stuff. You can do a couple if you like, because maybe we can do something a bit more, because I've got all the history on Red Gill, and maybe we can do something.
Yeah, nice, cool.
We'll have another conversation about that. But we'll do this as a giveaway. I might keep these.
And the T-bar, and the knife.
And these.
And these. And this one probably as well.
I'm only going to keep these two. The rest of them I'm going to give all. I'll give them all away. Yeah, I know, buggered in. Well, we did this with Matt. Matt's episode hasn't gone out. We had Matt Forrester come in from Joker Jigs.
Oh, yeah.
We did a whole thing with him, and we lost the first 10 minutes.
Audio, wasn't it?
Audio went. Didn't know what it was. We haven't had a chance to reshoot it, and he left his full range. Which is going to be awkward when he comes back in, because most of it is at the bottom of the channel, and the rest of it's on my boat. It was sat in a box out here for ages. In the end, I was like, I'm going to go and fish this. And
that's product testing.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the conversation product testing when he left it here, but yeah, he's going to have to bring it all in again. So we're going to get a restock. But yeah, we will give all this stuff away. We'll do something. We'll work out in a minute whether we send you off to the Red Gill page or the Sakuma page, whichever one you want to go to. Red Gill will probably be the better one, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We'll give it away. Someone's going to get a right little bundle of stuff. Thank you for coming in, mate.
I really
enjoyed that one. Danny, thank you. Insightful as ever from you, mate.
Thank you, Andy.
You've done really well being as hungover as you were. It must have been that 5-pack of cookies you went.
No, I've only had 2. There's some here, mate. Yeah, I didn't eat them all.
He smashed the Mars bar. Didn't share that with me.
The wonders of sugar, eh?
We all grew up here, 80s kids. We were raised on lead-based paints and sugar, weren't we? Like it's
Drugs.
drugs.
Anyway, that's a different conversation.
Thank you for listening. If you could go and hit the subscribe button, it's free. It'll keep you up to date with everything that we're doing. We super appreciate everybody listening. We do it so you guys can get an insight into what is going on with anglers, the trade, and those sorts of things. We appreciate you listening to me and Danny waffle on to people. So
Was it hashtag 2 idiots and a mic?
Hashtag 2 idiots and a mic. Yes, very much so. Hit the subscribe button. We do appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Alex. Pleasure.
So lovely.